move back
Oh, sorry.
a little bit. Oh, boy. Hey.
Ow.
Oh, are you okay?
No.
Oh, did I hit your knee?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Hello, Laura. No. Just start.
All right.
We good?
Hell yeah.
We gravy?
Yeah, I think so.
What happened to your eye here?
I was just thinking that. I saw it in the camera for the first time. I was like, what the fuck happened to my eye?
Oh, no, I noticed it a little earlier.
I have no idea.
Did you do it?
No.
Just playing innocent right now.
Is that why you
There is
got her knee?
a tiny little red bump under his eye. Like, everyone chill
Like I
out.
say, there's a tiny little retribution.
There's just a little...
I probably scratched it.
Maybe. You're very sensitive flesh.
Me, yeah.
Sorry I said it that way.
I'm sorry I said it that way. Me, yeah.
Me, yeah.
Meow.
This is why he's good at yordle impressions. We good now?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. Hello, lore heads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
Today, we're talking about Noxus.
Yeah.
Noxus.
Talking Nox.
Talking
Hey.
Nox.
Now, this is like a new format
Yeah.
for us, so we're kind of winging
Yeah.
it here. We have some rough plans, but we're also just going to do like a time check randomly throughout, what is it, like 60 minutes or so into the episode.
See how we're feeling, see how we're doing.
Yeah, we might have an overflow episode where we need to put more info, or maybe we'll fit it all in. We'll find out.
We're like
Well,
desperately
two-parter.
turning the floodgates. Like, it's overflowing.
It's just, it's
Too
hard to
much
tell
information.
how long
Stop
an
the
episode's going to be. There's a lot to Noxus, and we want to make our really, really good, hilarious jokes in between the stuff we're talking about. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of dense information. and
yeah.
we're going to try and avoid as much of that as we can while still maintaining the spirit of Noxus.
ooh, do I gotta like punch you or?
What?
It sounds like y'all have been kind of
You can
doing
fucking
that.
try to punch me. This is
No.
Noxus. The strong survive. I will fight back.
We'll pull hair.
Okay. Anywho, this might be a two-parter. Is all we're trying to say. Where do we start?
Do we want to start by each giving our own
Impression of
one
Noxus?
sentence
Oh,
summary of Noxus?
Oh, sure. I didn't
No.
actually write one
I
down.
really don't.
Cool.
So sorry. This isn't a yes and podcast.
Well, I believe in you.
Okay, I'll go first then. It is a region that values strength above all else and is determined to spread their borders as far as possible.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. I mean, I didn't write one down. Sure. No. I mean, yeah. I think they're an aggressive expansionist empire with a strong ideological core, but is plagued by sort of faltering of that ideal within, and kind of their what am I trying to say? Their strong idealism makes them blind sometimes to sort of the actual impact of their own actions. I don't know. That's a bit
So
much,
he
a bit
used
wordy.
bigger words than I did, but essentially
Yeah, but I said a lot of and and what am I trying to say? Things like that.
It's also good. I'm going to say Noxus is an aspirational meritocracy
Wow, really big words.
that is forced to constantly expand to compensate for their own lack of effective resource management.
I think it's all pretty accurate. Frankly, like just from that, I think most people could kind of be like fill in a
Well,
lot
we're
of
done.
the blanks around
We're good.
Noxus.
Yeah, that was
right?
Noxus.
Wrap it.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we nailed it.
Yeah.
Now, you may know of some champions from here. So I have a few champions listed here. Now, these are champions that either live here or are from here originally. We've got Briar, Cassiopeia, Darius, Draven, Katarina, Kled, LeBlanc, Mordekaiser, Rel, Riven, Samira, Scion, Smolder, Swain, Talon, Vladimir, Elise, Karthus, Kane, Rise, who was in fact born in Comb of the Noxai, which I did not remember until reading this. Smolder, who currently lives in Noxus after being rescued from the Noxian Beastmasters by his mommy, and Urgot.
You know, you listed Smolder twice, right?
Fuck! I'm now seeing that.
If you
on
look
the
at the
screen.
doc, at least they're like literally one above each other, at least at the zoom level.
Yeah.
It don't matter. Right?
And there are also a lot of champions that are connected to Noxus that aren't from here. And I think if I tell you how they're the 4 categories I essentially have here for connection, or I guess the 5 categories I have here for connection, I feel like it gives you another good idea of what Noxus is all about. So, the first category, former prisoners of Noxus. We've got Alistar, Vagar, and Sinjao. Next up, we have investigating Noxian spy networks. We've got Caitlin and Camille working on that shit. Next up, we have actively fighting against Noxus. We've got Galio, Garen, Aurelia, Jarvan, Karma, Lee Sin, Master Yi, Quinn, Gangplank, who, to be fair, he's not targeting Noxus, but, you know, Noxus sails in his seas, so fuck him. He also stole Swain's flagship, the Leviathan, so... and then we've got Thresh, who, again, not specifically targeting Noxus, but last we saw of him, he was attacking a Noxian inn. Next up, we have worked with Noxus for war. We've got Singed, Talia, and Sivir, who I guess wasn't necessarily for war as much as artifact gathering, but...
Talia is even questionable. I would say Talia falls more in the previous category.
Yeah.
Maybe, kind of all. She's kind of all 3. If you think about it, she's the hat trick.
Well, she was recruited. You know, she went there of her own accord. She just didn't know what she was getting into.
She has a tumultuous relationship with Noxus.
she bailed when she saw the the writing on the wall there. And then final category is just their fathers were Noxian, which we have Set and Annie. Annie also technically born in Noxus, but...
That's so specific. Sure. Their dad is from here.
Daddy's from here.
Yeah. Would you say she... Well, I don't know. Annie's kind of a wild card.
Annie is kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if she works with them. She's kind of like a Talia, almost, I would say, as I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I don't have her listed as the fighting with them. Annie's in the fathers were born there category.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
That's Noxus. Lots of people. That was a long list of people of the regions. Noxus has like a lot of connections, probably because they're spreading fucking everywhere. We could probably expand that list of characters even more, but like, those
everyone
are just
in Ionia.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, broadly.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, I think you got a really good point that they have a lot of people who are from there and they have a lot of connections, like you said, because they by the nature of what they do, they kind of end up interacting so contentiously often with so many different places, right? And I think something that we'll talk about a little bit as we kind of get into it is that they're very like literally spread very far, right? They have they have holdings in other regions, and I think they're the only region whatever where we're calling these that has stuff like that, right? There's not anywhere else where there's like little bits of Demacia over in Bilgewater, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I think
don't think so.
The furthest or the best other example of that we have is maybe Shurima. There are like random Shuriman outposts, places, because Azir was into that same old shit, just expanding his own fucking empire, which is why we have bits that extend past Shurima into Piltover. And there's who knows who owns them now, but there's Shuriman outposts right on the border of Noxus too, even though Noxus also has Noxian outposts in Shurima. They're kind of given the old, I don't know, the old salute, like, who owns these?
Maybe it's whoever can yell the loudest that day.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
Noxians
okay.
yell really well, so I mean,
Probably. I don't know. Have you heard Garen? He yells Demacia.
That's why they fight so much.
good.
I know,
That's it.
right?
You can yell their region's name the
They
best.
yell at each other at done.
Demaglio.
All right, yeah. Do we want to dive down into like
The
here's
history?
history? Here's kind of the backstory a little bit of how Noxus kind of came to be.
Love it.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. So I mean, you know what's really funny is right before we started this, Rebecca, y'all just got Legends of Runeterra. Not Legends of Runeterra, jeez, I'm crow. Realms of Runeterra. Sorry, there's a lot of things of Runeterra, which I had forgotten totally existed. But as you're looking at it, you kind of point out nicely, like there's a nice little timeline for all of Runeterra in here. It's just like a little two-page thing, but it was kind of nice because it added a little entry into this little history thing. I kind of forgot the Rune Wars happened.
I know, right?
They're kind of important when you think
Right?
about it.
They're like they're touched on a lot, but in like a sentence. We don't get like stories during the Rune Wars very often and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, but there's some specific Noxus stuff related to them that I found kind of interesting. So I mean, I guess it pulls us back like earliest to like the Darken Wars, right? Where the Darken are raging around, they're causing all sorts of problems, you know, and in kind of the wake of it, Mordekaiser comes to power within the region that is now sort of Noxus. At the time, it's just sort of scattered tribes, right, called the Noxai. And when he's running the whole place, Mordekaiser kind of sets up one of the big landmarks within Noxus, kind of their big capital headquarters, right, called the Immortal Bastion. It's this massive, structure that kind of sits at the heart of the space, and he runs the place for a while. And eventually, LeBlanc and Mordekaiser, who are introduced all the way back in this sort of ancient history that we're talking about, sort of foment their own rebellion and eventually overthrow Mordekaiser, cast him into the Death Realm, and then the Noxai
You did say
tribes.
LeBlanc and Mordekaiser do
LeBlanc
Did I
this?
say
and
Mordekaiser?
Vladimir.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
LeBlanc
Yeah,
and
well,
Vladimir. I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like,
No.
Oh, working together at last.
Interesting.
First, it seems like she was like one of his underlings.
It's true.
Right.
He had his own little circle of mages.
Yeah.
His trusted inner circle, who were the ones who ended up fucking him in the end. Just goes to show you, never trust anyone
Yep.
if you're a warlord.
That's a repeated thing in Noxian history, guys.
Right.
If you look at it,
I
but
suppose just if in Noxus, don't trust anyone. Everyone's out for your job.
I mean, it's kind of true, right? But yeah, so I think establishing LeBlanc really early on is very important because she's going to continue to just play in the entire space, and just going forward. Essentially, LeBlanc is going
For
to
whatever
be here.
reason.
For whatever reason, LeBlanc has decided this is it. This is the place, and is at any time sort of seemingly running things behind the scenes. Now, after this point, the Noxai tribes are still kind of expanding aggressively, and then the Rune Wars kind of come about in Runeterra, and as Realms of Runeterra kind of highlighted, the Noxai actually took refuge within the Immortal Bastion, kind of at the height of the Rune Wars when things were kind of at their worst. You mentioned Rise being from Cone.
Yeah,
Right?
Comb,
Yeah,
Calm, however they pronounce it.
Comb, located within Noxus, notably the very first place obliterated at the start of the Rune Wars, right? But at the end of it, the Noxai come out into this sort of almost like a little Fallout vault,
right?
In a way, where they come out into this kind of the idea that all of Runeterra is sort of in a big post-apocalypse is kind of interesting. And this is just like after the Rune War apocalypse, kind of.
Right, and especially close to areas of Noxus, because I think like that southern mountain range in between like Noxus and Shurima really got fucking blasted by the Rune Wars. That's like
So does this
pure apocalypse.
Okay, so I got an interesting idea, right? We talked about it comes up a lot that Noxus has to expand to because the land is like blighted, right? Like they can like they need to feed their people, and to do that they have to conquer and expand. And then it's always been written, I think, and then they just kind of chew through the land and need to expand more. But what if a lot of that was rooted in when Noxus was kind of first formed proper? It was in a place where the Rune Wars had kind of obliterated everything. Like there's no, like you couldn't farm the land because it had been all runed up. It had been ruined. Can't find that friend. Right, so like maybe that's not the case anymore, but I would be really interested if that was if they kind of held that as a means of sort of explaining some of the Noxian identity or culture, right? Is it sort of founded in like a almost like Dust Bowl type situation, like people who grew up during the Depression, right? Like this is a whole nation that did that.
Yeah.
And then current leadership forgot about it, and they were like, hey, let's take over these resource-rich areas, but then also use chemical weapons on them so that we can't get any resources from them.
It's just a little salt in the earth. It's not that bad. So at this point, Noxus is an empire proper, and this is when they start kind of engaging. I mean, they're kind of constantly expanding their borders throughout their history around this time and moving forward. And one big thing is that they develop a really strong rivalry with Demacia as a region. This is notably where Scion sort of first makes his appearance. Again, generations and generations in the past as a just very brutal and effective warlord and warrior within Noxus, who eventually is killed, but not without taking a Jarvan with him, baby.
One Jarvan and one crown.
Right,
to go, please.
Right. In more like recent history, like the big era to kind of look at is the Darkwill era, where Borum Darkwill is the grand general and leader of Noxus, and is kind of working under the influence of a secret society called the Black Rose, who's helmed by LeBlanc. And this is where a lot of the sort of Noxian ideal is kind of heavily, I guess, corrupted or left by the wayside, where noble houses these kind of long-standing noble houses sort of wield power much more than any sort of individual ever potentially could, regardless of their actual capability. Noxus is constantly in these big wars of aggression that are in service to like seeking out artifacts and life-extending powers for Borum Darkwill and ostensibly the Black Rose, kind of at the sacrifice of the actual soldiers and people and resources, kind of again straying away from that ideal. And one of the big turning points is the invasion of Ionia, right? This is a massive thing in all Frontierin history. This is where we see Swain, who's a major player now, kind of introduced and more specifically kind of betrayed, funny enough. Kind of defeated by Ionian resistance, and then also in turn sort of treated as just broadly incompetent.
I fucking love the way. So there was a fun fact I have here that I just kind of I love the way it was worded on the wiki. Swain seized control of Noxus 7 years ago, in terms of timeline. 3 years before that, Swain was caught during the Battle of the Placidium in Navori, Ionia, where he lost his arm to a 14-year-old girl.
Hell yeah, man. They don't make kids anywhere like in Ionia, Those orphans.
Right? They gotta learn to fend for themselves.
Up.
Maybe a little Zahn, but no, yeah. That's
true.
They grow them tough over there, man. They drink from the garden hose and they don't care.
They're the last generation.
Oh shit. This is also where like Riven is kind of given her big turning point as a character, right? She's kind of, I don't know about betrayed per se. Her and her unit are kind of killed and as a part of a major battle where chemical warfare is used, and this is where she kind of sees that the ideals that she sort of held are kind of ring false, ring hollow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is also simultaneously where Darius is kind of coming to that same conclusion.
That's true. Yeah.
Where he's like,
it's really like Borum Darkwill has gone
he's fucked everything
off
up,
the deep end. Yeah, he's really lost sight of the plot there.
Yeah, Riven's out in Ionia. Fucking Darius is in the Freljord. And
they're all like
none of them
dying.
are happy about it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, this is where Noxus at this time is using children as part of their conscripted warriors against Ionians, because they think it will be it's kind of like you're throwing whatever shit you can at the wall, right? Just to try to get it.
Throwing as many orphans at the wall as you can.
Little they know that when kids go over to Ionia.
By fire with fire, right?
gosh.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of, I think, in question in terms of like how much of this is Borm Darkwill just being kind of insane or megalomaniacal, and how much of this is Black Rose just kind of using him as a living tool, a vehicle for whatever their ends are.
Yes, we don't know because Riot doesn't know either, but it's something.
That's true. Yeah, and I guess it's also good to mention here that even probably before this, when Swain was still a young man, like very young man, I think late teens, he ostensibly destroyed the Black Rose, or at least it was sort of assumed that he had exposed them and had their members, including his own parents, put to the sword. Obviously not. They're still around. But I guess that's important to kind of establish that he's aware of them, and on top of that, the public at large seems to be of the belief that they don't exist anymore. But bringing us kind of more into like the actual modern day history, like you said, 7 years ago, Swain leads sort of an overnight coup of Noxus. You mentioned that Darius had kind of become disillusioned with what he and his soldiers were being tasked to do up in the Freljord, and had brought himself and his armies back to Noxus Prime, I guess, Noxus proper, their capital, which I think is just Noxus. To sort of like demand.
I think the main central area of Noxus is like called the Immortal Bastion, even though the Immortal Bastion is also
like
just
a
an
specific
individual building.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fair. But yeah, he wants to kind of have an all hands meeting and kind of he wants to do like some restructuring. And he comes back to see that Swain has implemented this coup, has executed Borm Darkwill with the help of Darius' brother Draven, and it leaves Darius in this kind of interesting position of, there are still these powerful noble houses that are a strong presence in Noxian politics when this has happened, and they have obviously a lot of pressure for Darius to sway against Swain, but Darius kind of likes Swain, and they kind of end up not fighting or anything, but in fact sort of ruling together in this new government form that's been established called the Triferix, where you have, instead of one singular ruler, you kind of have three that represent, there's these three sort of tenets of Noxian strength, right? Like strength, guile, and cunning or vision. Is that it? Yeah.
Strength, guile, and vision. Yeah.
Vision. Okay.
Vision. Yeah.
Which was kind of based on. I didn't write it down, but there is a Mordekaiser quote that seems like it basically informed the entire Noxian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that when we did this episode. I can't remember what it was specifically. And so, and as a part of this too, Swain kind of makes some really sweeping changes to sort of Noxian law, the way that they handle just a bunch of different things that are kind of meant to reinvigorate and reestablish the Noxian identity in accordance with the ideals we've been kind of talking about, right? Where, kind of removing these entrenched noble houses from positions of power, like pulling people out of the military and replacing them with people who could kind of properly earn their commission, all sorts of things like that, right? So that's kind of where Noxus kind of stands in modern day, is that they've undergone this really vast political upheaval, and in many ways have reformed themselves in kind of accordance with how they see themselves in some ways.
Yeah, and I think there are a few champions kind of caught up. Like, I know Annie's dad fled Noxus right before that happened, but he was kind of an official house, essentially, that probably would have been exiled were he to stay. I think, if I remember correctly, too, Elise probably falls there, too, but, has is a bit of an exception because she's also running errands for LeBlanc.
Yeah.
And is half spider, so, what's she gonna do?
I guess it's also important to remember that Swain did not just destroy or depose, like kill or whatever, all of the noble houses. He sort of made them swear fealty under threat of exile or death. And so there are some that are still around and are regarded as like well regarded. They just have kind of said, hey, I think this is not like codified anywhere, but I think it's just kind of assumed that they've said, hey, we'll do what Swain says, and the noble house thing is sort of, we don't care about that anymore. But we're still going to keep our cool last name or whatever.
Because technically the Dooku Toes fall in that realm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And And then there are others that are not, against it. But I think it's been pretty established also in a couple of pieces that there is a significant faction or grouping of these sort of noble houses who are still around and are still not at all happy with what's happened and sort of actively working against or attempting to undermine Swain's regime, right?
Yeah. Which is bad news for them, because Swain has a demon on his side that lets him know all sorts of shit that he shouldn't know.
Yeah, it's assumedly just knows everything and is cool with it. I don't know. Maybe it's like controlled opposition. Who knows?
Now, do we know more about the Immortal Bastion itself? I know I think we talked about that it was hinted that there's some kind of old, deep magic in the Immortal Bastion or around the Immortal Bastion. And I didn't know if this had to do with Mordekaiser or if this is like before that, like before Mordekaiser shit, like the land itself, this spot of land.
I don't know if we know if the land itself had anything special before Mordekaiser. Definitely after, at least, though. Like, there is like a huge well of magic here.
There's a reason I feel like he didn't die, right? Mordekaiser was technically killed, but has like formed his own kind of afterlife. Yeah, a few times.
Yeah.
And I thought that had to do with the magic of the Immortal Bastion, something tied to it. It's not just because he's super special.
The first one was because he's super special. He was just too stubborn to die. And then he came back. And then his plan was to die again after he had learned enough to take control of the afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, mission accomplished.
I think his little death realm, his little pocket death realm dimension is just a product of his general power and like necromantic ability.
Okay.
That he just, like you said, he went to the death realm and said, well, fuck this, these souls are now a chair, right? So
I will fought upon you.
So I think that I know it's like you said, it's a big font of power for sure, and I know that his remains, like his suit of armor, which I think he's kind of bound to. It's hard because in his old lore he was definitely bound to his remains. I don't remember if that's still the case. I think it is. Is down there. We see that when there are people who go to interact with LeBlanc.
It's inside.
Yeah, it's inside there. There's there were several demons that were just kind of held captive there too.
So they may have twisted the energies. They've really ruined the vibes of the Immortal Bastion.
It was such a chill hang before.
I know. Oh my god. Yeah, I thought it would be cool if it had to do with the Rune War, kind of lingering rune magic, but who knows? Anyway.
It very well could. I wish they would kind of do. It's funny, like the fact that Rune War part of their history is something I completely forgot about it. I know I'd read it before.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really get a lot of play in anything we see like in modern day, and I kind of wish they would use it more because it's such a transformative event. And on top of that, Noxus and Demacia get kind of brought against each other a lot, right? As almost like a compare contrast in some ways. And Demacia was heavily formed by the events of the Rune War, so it'd be kind of nice to see that also be the case for Noxus, and that they just took very different, paths or responses to the whole thing.
One got super insular and decided they hated magic. The other got super expansionist and was like, we're going to find all the fucking magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so, so, But yeah, I mean, do we want to talk then about, we kind of moved all the way through history into modern day. We've been talking a lot around some of their culture anyway. There are some specific things that I think are good to highlight. A big one with Noxus that we've kind of talked about a little is this sort of veneration of strength, and there's supposed to be like a big sort of addendum to strength of all kinds, but I wrote it with an asterisk because and I think you've said as much before, John, that when it's you're a huge aggressive military empire, you have a tendency to kind of lean into the whole strength as literal strength,
the physical strength.
Yeah,
you attract the people who are going to want to rise to the top. You don't necessarily attract the people who are the best bakers in the world. I know you want them, but
if you happen to conquer people who are good bakers, they might in turn find success in the Empire as good-ass bakers.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I think that is what a lot of like Swain kind of leadership is looking at, like who are the people who are the best of the best. The problem is that not all the generals in charge of the conquering are necessarily on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think I could be wrong. I feel like some of that's again sort of tied into, you just got these big sections of the political landscape who are just, I guess, not on board, and who are just kind of not in open rebellion, but really seem to do their best to undermine at any turn.
Right.
What Swain's all about.
And that's not even counting the ones that are in very, very open rebellion.
Sure. That's true.
One thing that's interesting is there is a story in Realms of Runeterra that I think what it touches on is what we're talking about right now, actually. I won't go through the whole like plot or anything, but it is essentially about this small city that's gotten taken over by Noxus, and we're following like the day after and kind of how Noxus comes in. It is really interesting, Mark. It's a good story. And we're following the point of view of a guy who tried to lead a rebellion, but they're really like, they have mines and stuff, like they build stonework and things like that. But they saw Noxus coming and he tried to gather people together to fight back. And obviously they lost. But he is now watching Noxus come into his home, and they're kind of dividing the resources, and they have a map, and they're seeking out like the lands around the map, and like, okay, well, what grows here? That's great. What happens over here? This is what we're going to use it for. And it's interesting to see that kind of efficiency go to work. And in this case, the Noxian general is understanding of the fact that they're not soldiers, because he has tried to tell her several times, like, we're not fighters. And she's like, yeah, I know. That's not why we're here. Like, you're going to build stuff. And they do start contributing to the we haven't talked about the arches yet, but they are the people who start they kind of change the arches. They're like, dude, your arches are ugly, we're gonna make them cooler. It's kind of, and we're seeing this very quick change, like how these people can go from we want to fight back, fuck you guys, to not that long later acknowledging that they are now Noxians. It's really interesting to see, and I liked the read a lot.
And I think I called them the Noxai. They're Noxara, right?
Noxara.
Noxtora.
Noxtora.
That's
God,
the
I
one.
read a whole story that talked about this stuff.
They love the Nox. There's a lot of words that start with Nox. It gets confusing.
But I do think it's hard to acknowledge that Noxus does appreciate all forms of strength, because it seems silly and maybe like they don't. But it is interesting to see an entire city that they're not taking over for more soldiers. They do take some people, and they're like, hey, if you've got some actual fighters, we'll take them. But they are valuing like the main character and what his strengths are, and it's not fighting, obviously.
Yeah. And I think we see that too in the Principles of Strength, right? The town that came to kind of plead their own case is a mining town that provides Noxus with armor and weapons, and the condition that they've struck is that they will provide them with all of that shit and like that gold, armor, weapons, and in return, Noxus will not draft any of them into the army.
They don't want to
because they normally, like in a lot of cases when they take over places, they'll take
They're trying to find the
non-fighters
best
and
fighters,
try and turn them into fighters. But in certain circumstances where the talent of the area outweighs the potential as soldiers, then they'll strike deals.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think what you're kind of describing, Rebecca, also seems to come up in the Katarina comic, funny enough. Another group of like masons or builders, I think, who are not treated so kindly by more of a rogue general.
Yeah, at the start, and that kind of highlights one of those generals who's not on board with that Swain vision.
Yeah, that's
opens it up and he's like, I liked it back in Borm Darkwill when only
the
just physically strong
would have been
yeah,
right?
God, I
fucking
remember
useless
that now.
pieces of shit.
Yeah,
I will say, what I am noticing as we talk about it, and it's something I've noticed before and reading about it, is that like Yes, all of that, yes, and I do like that idea. But we are also still talking about a lot of things that offer a very practical, tangible benefit to the Empire in terms of like supplies and etc. I really want to see what happens when they take over a village of like Hui poets, right? Like just a bunch of sad boys. Like I don't know, it's kind of hard to make the case that these guys are better for anything other than just like arrow fodder. I don't know. Just, from who knows? Maybe I could be wrong because I read that story that you're talking about from Realms. Like because you said they were gonna make it like better. Do they mean better just like aesthetically? Because that would be kind of interesting. Or is it like structurally?
Yeah, they're just aesthetically better. Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I'm
I liked that too. Yeah. I liked that they had this moment where she admitted that it looks a lot. You made him look better. Let me see if I can find the exact wording because I'm curious about it now.
You know what?
Oh, go ahead, hon.
Oh, I was gonna say a Hui village. Good for propaganda. It's like, hey, all you poets. You're going to write our victory songs. You're going to spread the tale far and wide. We are no longer the ruthless conquerors. We are the saviors.
I'm super open to that, too. If they find every way to squeeze blood from the stone of, like, what are you guys good at? Making, like, I don't know. I can't. Weaving? Okay, I don't know. I mean, weaving, sure, right? But yeah, things that are sort of lacking
You're really good at playing jacks. Oh.
Yeah, that's something like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Jacks
Hog Masters.
It just says,
we're going to take the gold.
Sorry. I was ruining your jokes. I ruined your bits. I wasn't even listening, so I have no idea what you guys were joking about.
It was
Something about
Jax.
Shit. I can't wait to hear it when I edit the episode. Anyway.
It was actually the game Jax, not the character.
Oh. Oh, that's great. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, she just says the arches are better off with a little imagery on them. So yeah, he's just kind of adding decorations to them, and they're like even better, which is true. I bet they look a lot better. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Mark. I do really want to see, because sometimes I think about how would I do in Noxus, right? Like I'm trying to be my best self, but like I write not that great books. So like, what would Noxus do with me? Do I die because of that? Even though I'm like, no, I'm on your side, Noxus. Like, let's get him. Where do I fit into this? What about me, Riot?
You joined the propaganda machine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably, right. I guess, like, I don't know. This is all, we're veering off into, like, our own personal thing, which I don't care about. It's fun, right? I kind of would think that my Noxus, me personally, there's some value in someone who's trying, even if they're not the strongest. As long as, like, it's okay to not be the strongest as long as you don't remain not the strongest, right? Like there's something probably there that I think Noxus would hold up. But if you're someone who's kind of content,
right?
Yeah,
you don't have to be the best as long as you're on your way to the best.
We're trying, right? I'm open to that, but the thing also is that like if you're someone who kind of co-spy or is just kind of okay being mediocre, is not the place for you. But the thing also, I do wonder about it because you can't be the strongest, and there are some people who, by the nature of the lot they were given in life, will not be the strongest, or maybe are just kind of okay, and they're the ones I would like to know more about. How are they treated in Noxus? And I would kind of personally like it if Noxus was not as kind of forgiving as I'm kind of imagining them, because I think sometimes they make things a little too neat in Noxus almost.
Yeah, like we see a lot about the Talons in Noxus, who are street urchins who are very good at what they do, and what they do is murder. We see much less about the people who get murdered by those people who are very good at the murder.
Well, I don't think he was murdering like just regular folks. This guy was like on his way to get a muffin, and Talon was like, "I got him,"
If he was hungry, I have no doubt Talon would murder a guy for a muffin.
He would. He is that guy. He's that bitch for sure.
But yeah, there's definitely like the thing about Noxus favoring the strong is that we only get to read about champions in Noxus who are always the strong. Mm-hmm. There's the majority, I would say, of Noxus is probably those stories we're not getting. That those orphans who get their tears drank by Vladimir and shit like that.
He's got to survive too.
That was pure pleasure.
No,
I don't want to use the word. I don't think it's right, but I can't think of another one. I guess it's like, I would be curious if you were to present the Rel situation, with maybe missing some of the specifics, but just kind of broadly as a hypothetical to a Noxian citizen, would the bulk of them think like, well, they did lose those duels. I mean, and if that makes her stronger, then maybe it was the right thing to do, put those orphans in her. You know, it's like,
To put
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would they be like,
I think that people would be torn. Maybe the more Borum Darkwill people would
that's true,
probably,
right?
whereas Darius would see that as a waste. Like, they were also really great with magic. Like, I know they lost a single duel, but we could have trained them to be stronger so they don't lose any
That's
more
true.
duels. You know, that's kind of how I would see it. But yeah, the everyday average Joe, I am curious what they do in Noxus, because not everyone can be on top. I just kind of assume they're doing, like, the dirty work. And because Noxus is very anti-slavery, which is important to know about them. But I imagine their everyday average Joes are maybe the closest things they have to slaves, but are
Like
they are
wage slaves.
paid. Yeah, wage slaves. But they're not living the lives of the, quote, best.
Yeah.
I don't know.
one piece I wanna look at for this, this specifically talking about the average Joe, is the Thresh A Night at the Inn cinematic.
True. Yeah.
Because it features, it's set in Noxus, and it features a guy who is he's a server. He works in an inn, and he's had the unfortunate, circumstance of he pickpocketed a mage, got one of his arms turned into this giant crab claw that's got a mind of its own, and he doesn't get a single fucking lick of sympathy from anybody. They bully him, and everyone thinks it's the funniest shit in the world. So it's like, I don't know. I guess I kind of feel like that maybe is that more of an accurate depiction of how Noxians, like, do they see it as weakness? They're like, oh, well, this guy, he's a shitty server. He got a fucking crab claw.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I would
very
think that
catty, right?
he's a shitty pickpocketer. You know,
Yeah.
it's that he earned
And
this
now-
crab claw by doing something fucking stupid and being bad at it.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's
but-
it's kind of one of those things where if you're an everyday Joe, you have to find someone who's slightly worse than you at all times.
Oh my god, it's like the social episode of Black Mirror.
Exactly. Like if you're a 2, you need to find the 1 so that you can shit on them publicly.
Sure, I'm open to that. I'd be curious to see how that kind of affect it. Like when you talk about like that, it starts to pull me into places like like a 1984 space almost of like, is it rampant with like paranoia, right? You say like you can't trust anybody,
yeah,
but is that
right,
genuinely
yeah.
what kind of is? Right? They're gonna catch you slipping, man.
Especially
Shit.
because like we know how they handle open rebellion too. So like that's one level of paranoia that has to exist. The people that don't necessarily want to be a part of the empire but maybe are forced to because their home got conquered also knows but I also can't fucking do anything about it, because remember the last place that openly rebelled and then Swain had scions just fucking razed to the ground, like
Resurrected a big giant dead monster.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I'm a
ironic
normal
when we
everyday guy. I don't. It's like
Right?
an NPC in D&D. When he's got like 2 hit points.
It's like, I don't have stats.
I'm
I
just a
like
normal guy.
Y'all are making rolls. Oh man. Yeah, it's kind of ironic when you talk about it that way, because their whole shtick is that, hey, we want everybody to join us and be together with us in this horrible paranoid, like on the edge of our seat situation. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing I put here, just kind of as a thing about Noxus, is they have one of the centerpieces in the Immortal Bastion part of town is a shrine to the wolf. So the whole thing with kindred, obviously, with the wolf and the lamb. Lamb is for accepting death, and wolf is fuck off death. Noxus is very wolf.
Of course.
Wolf all the way.
Yeah.
They have shrines dedicated to the wolf specifically. They have a face the wolf mentality. We meme on it a lot, the whole not wearing armor on their back. But they're very the mentality is very fight to the end. Now, obviously, we have tons of instances of Noxus running away from shit, but like
You
in
know,
general, that's
not
the
all
ideal.
Noxians can hold up to that ideal when faced with death, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough.
Sure. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I mean.
Oh no, I was going to move on to something else. If you got more wolf stuff.
No. I was gonna say it kind of carries on through into the fact that they do like they call them reckonings, but they do gladiator pits in Noxus, which is kind of like that they so literally do these tests of strength.
Yeah, of various degrees too, because they've got the reckonings and they've got the fleshings, which are
awful.
That's rough shit.
Yeah.
They might not do the fleshings anymore in modern society. That might not exist anymore. But as of not too long ago, they were still fucking doing it. On the field of kind of the ever expansion too, I just kind of wanted to touch on the War Masons a bit, because that is one thing that, as far as I think we know, is very exclusive to Noxus, at least in terms of being explicitly called out, is they have agents kind of everywhere that are just looking. They're not these sneaky in the shadow spies. They're very much like the integrated into society, like genuine real life spies, that are just learning everything they can about areas, learning about vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and reporting back to Noxus with all of this information so that they can kind of plan future invasions. And I think something that we are probably going to see in the Progress Day story, there are 2 War Masons very heavily integrated into Piltover society. And the whole thing is like the story follows this one War Mason and her group of 2 friends that are also just kind of Piltovans that don't realize she's a War Mason, and they're trying to prove themselves to become part of House Medarda, I think it was, or just any house that would take them. And the War Mason that we're following at the end kind of gets caught out. Caitlin is like, I know what she, fucked up the presentation, and Caitlin was like, I know what you're on to. I need you to leave and never come back. But the whole time, one of her other friends was a War Mason too, and never got caught, got accepted into the house, did a great job at the presentation. So like, that's something that we're going to see in Piltover probably coming up in season 2 of Arcane. Like, Ambessa's here, obviously, but like also they've got schemes on schemes going on.
It'd be interesting. I wonder if they'll incorporate something like that.
Yeah.
I think Mark is
we
frozen.
lost Mark.
Yeah. It was hard to tell because you were talking like for a bit, so it was like, is he just listening really intently? But
he had a very intent look on his face. Oh, he's back.
He's back. Yeah.
Okay. Y'all good? I my internet looked fine the whole time. I'll say.
Okay. You like froze on a really deep contemplative look.
Yes, and then there was like a yellow exclamation point on your window.
Sorry, I don't want. Well, anyway, I was gone around the talk of them joining potentially Clan Medarda.
Yeah, no worries. That's cool. But yeah, so I mean, we might very well get to see the results of that in season 2 of Arcane. Like, I know Ambessa's there, but the thing is, like, when Ambessa shows up, she doesn't show up and ask questions of Mel. She shows up and says, hey, turns out your Jace has turned his eyes to weaponry, which just fucking happened, like, that afternoon. Like, and also she was like, you've let your Undercity fester for too long. Like, this is not just shit that she gathered in her one day. Like, she is being fed information. So the War Mason we know of in Piltover, obviously just like one of the many War Masons who are probably in Piltover feeding information into Noxus right now. So I think we're going to see the results of that a lot in season 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very curious to see how Noxus to see if we need to come back and amend anything that we're kind of saying here based on kind of how Noxus gets handled in Arcane.
Right.
I feel like no. I feel like they're not going to stray that far, but what do I know, right?
Right.
Don't trust me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like War Masons are a very, very cool part of Noxus. I'd be surprised and disappointed if they went back on that. But like, yeah, it's a very, I don't know, it's a very cool thing about it. We talk a lot of shit about LeBlanc and her schemes. Like the War Masons are a very non-LeBlanc, legitimate scheme for expansion that is working very well for them so far.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see something that is a good example of valuing strength and examples almost of strength that, again, are not just raw military prowess, right? Subterfuge, spycraft. In that story that you're talking about, the fact that they were so good at being able to sort of memorize the actual layout of the city, for example, and they could kind of create maps of the places they've been from just being, spending time there and being there and stuff. I don't know. It's nice it's a nice, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the word, but my mind's blanking.
Yeah. And the fact that they sent like 2 for that one mission too. It reminds me so much of like putting a pink ward in a brush and then putting a regular ward in a brush.
Someone's like, get that pink
someone
ward.
clears the pink ward and they're like, they surely wouldn't have 2 wards in this brush.
Well, that's why we double ward all the time. It's definitely not an accident.
Yeah. It's like, no need to sweep this. We already got the ward.
Or 2 of them, as it were. We got those 2 pink wards.
Sorry, I should have looked at this book later. I'm so excited. It's so cool.
Oh, well.
The Realms of Frontera book.
She was smelling it earlier.
Right.
I was sniffing it. It smells so good,
hard.
you guys. You've no idea.
I was going to cover some regions of Noxus. You want to hear about some regions?
For sure, but first you have to see how much they have about Bandle City here.
Okay, we'll look at that later.
Last page, and it's just that.
Oh, nice. I have more than that on Bandle City in my notes that I took for Bandle City. All right, we're going to start it off front and center, Immortal Bastion. Now, we mentioned this is the structure in the heart of Noxus, and it is also kind of the Noxus proper capital of Noxus. And there are a few areas here of note. Now, there's a ton more areas here that I'm not going to get into. I'm only going to cover the ones that like are of note either because champions we know are from there or like something interesting happened there that I kind of wanted to touch on. So we're going to start with Mortora, the Iron Gate. And that is what it translates to into Ancient Noxans.
Ooh.
This is a very wealthy and spacious neighborhood, but also very mysterious. This is where Vladimir lives.
Yeah, it does seem bizarre as hell in like that one blast.
Yeah. They talk about everything being so tightly packed, but then in this one area, it's like a legit, just like fucking cul-de-sac type neighborhood. Like, oh shit, what the fuck is this? But like nobody's here.
Just Vlad.
Then we've got the Bastion Center Tri-Towers. Now, if you ever look at a picture of the Hollow Bastion, this is what you're picturing. The 3 massive towers of the Hollow Bastion.
This guy said Hollow Bastion. Even playing Kingdom Hearts.
He said it twice.
God damn it, yeah.
That's what that's from.
I play a lot of Kingdom Hearts.
I was like, why is he calling it the Hollow Bastion?
The Immortal Bastion. So this is most probably the headquarters of the Black Rose right now, at the very heart of the Hollow Bastion. It's not like 100% confirmed.
The Hollow Bastion, huh?
God damn it! It's gonna happen. It's just
it's okay. It's the best level in all Kingdom Hearts 1. Don't worry about it.
It's true. Then we've got the Stairs of Triumph and the Audience Chamber.
So the Black Rose is just at the very tip top of the Immortal Bastion?
Not the tip top, just in the Immortal Bastion. Yeah. So the thing about the Immortal Bastion, there's weirdness with it, right?
Do people stay in here? Is it just the Black Rose in here?
It's off limits.
That's the weirdness with it. This is not under the control of the Triferics. The Immortal Bastion building is no one's allowed to go in. It's sealed off.
It's like a hazard code.
It's understood that if anyone goes in here, they are an enemy of the Triferics, which is why the Black Rose kind of operates in shadow in there.
Why would you be an enemy of the Triferics if you went into a building?
Because you're not allowed to go in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I need a better
off
reason.
limits.
This is what I would be doing in Noxus.
Imagine
is
if
I would've
you're an
gotten killed.
American and you try to go into Area 51.
Okay,
This
but
is
that's
the
not- okay,
Area
John,
51.
Area 51 is not a giant building right in the middle of the city I live in, okay?
Well,
Trying to go into the Empire State Building and you get killed by the FBI or whatever.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know what is a big building in the middle of the country you live in? The Pentagon.
Pentagon.
And you'd probably have the same fucking thing
But
if you
there
tried to
are
just walk into the
people
Pentagon.
who work in the Pentagon. I wouldn't be allowed in there for clearance purposes, for
And
security
I'm sure enemies of
purposes.
the United States most likely to work in the Pentagon if Avengers
I'm just saying, this
or
makes
Avengers Civil War is any
no sense at all.
indication. The Hail Hydra folks are.
I need a reason they're not allowed in the Immortal Bastion. But
I mean,
anyway.
it is a very
they can give
dangerous
any reason they
magical
want,
area,
right?
right? Like
okay.
we
That's
know
fine.
that we mentioned there's like a whole font of power in there that no one fully understands, right? Like
Yeah, build your city around it, fucking idiots.
I mean, Mordekaiser understood it. He's the one who built the city around it.
I know, but they're staying. It's fine. I guess it's
What are
like
you gonna build a new city? That's a lot of work.
You
You don't have the resources for that shit. You can't even feed
We'll
your people.
take this city and move it over here. But it's reminding me of Megaton. They built their village around a fucking like nuclear waste.
Right. Little did they know.
I mean, it's kind
I
of
was going to
same-
make the hard choice.
Did you blow up Megaton?
Why not?
Oh my god. He's so mean in Fallout.
a bunch of nerds worshiping
Right.
bomb. Jeez.
It is
Hey,
weird.
When
That's
when
true.
you've got full charisma, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Anywho, we've got the Stairs of Triumph in the Audience Chamber, which is where the Triferix does their business. If you want to meet with them, you go there. And then we have the Fleshing Arena, where Alistar and Sinjao fought. Basically, this is the real hardcore reckonings, where every time you beat an opponent, the next time you fight, you have to fight one more opponent. And they keep doing that until eventually you die. It is a death sentence, eventually. Luckily, both of them broke out before that happened, but, that's the exception. We also have Scion's Memorial that's here. This is likely abandoned, given that that used to just kind of be the body of Scion that was the memorial, and that's not there anymore.
Swain
So,
tucked that away
yeah.
for his own private purpose. I'm sorry.
Ugh.
North Noxus.
We've got North Noxus. So, part of North Noxus, we've got the Dalamore Plain, which is largely wasteland, with a single small town named Drugna. But important is that Kled hangs out here. This is where Kled spends most of his time.
Kled.
Then we've got the Iron Spike Mountains, which is a small mountain range that's home to the Delver Hold, and previously, until Annie burned it down, Haster's home, which is where Annie's dad used to live.
Oh.
Delverhold is a mining city that has tons of iron and gold. They provide Noxus a ton of weapons and armor in exchange for never being drafted to fight for the Empire. This is that area that shows up in the Principles of Strength story. They're the leaders of Delverhold. Then we have Khmer, which is another Noxian mining city.
That's what this story is about in Realms of Runeterra.
Oh, that is
about
also
Khmer.
Delverhold?
No,
Oh,
it's
it's by
about
Khmer?
It's about Khmer getting invaded. It's called Azstone, by the way, by Daniel Coutts or Coots.
Daniel Coutts?
Coutts,
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Oh, did you know him?
Yeah, he was on the player support team with me.
Oh, neat. Oh, he wrote this story. It's good. You should read it.
Nice work, Coutts. But yeah, this is another Noxian mining city with lots of quarries. They have soapstone, alabaster, clay, limestone, slate, and granite. And apparently, fun fact about this area, apparently they've got some fucking slamming flowers. Was that mentioned in the story?
Put them on.
Their neighboring city really wants their fucking flowers. And then finally we have Urtis, which was its own independent kingdom until Darius killed its king in the After Victory cinematic.
He would.
I mean, to be fair, he fucking had it coming. That was a cinematic where, like,
That was a
the
good
king
one.
tried to
Yeah.
kill the girl, and he was a dick.
He was a dick.
All right. Next, we have East Noxus. We've got the Draken Gate, which joined Noxus via the Draken campaign, led by Kled. This They export mud packs, likely for bricks, but not high-quality ones. They mentioned specifically that...
Make shit bricks?
Yeah, like their bricks are mixed with all sorts of shit that just makes them worse.
Great.
We put some batteries in there.
Right?
Good job, Cled. Sick place you got.
Then you've got Combe, which is the village where Rise was born, and that was obliterated during the Rune War.
Okay, so it's not there anymore.
Yeah, well, there's a crater. Maybe.
Sure.
The Combe crater.
It might be a bay now. I think it got filled by water.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. I think it is a bay.
Oh, like Crater Lake in Oregon.
Ah. Is that what happened to Crater Lake? Is the fucking Rune War?
Rune Wars really destroyed it. Beautiful place. You should go.
Next up, we got South Noxus. Now we have the Argent Mountains, which is a huge mountain range. Noxus only controls a part of it. We've got the Gates of Mourning, which was specifically built to guard neighboring lands from Noxian invasion, but they didn't do a great job. This is where the first battles between Noxus and Demacia happened, and they were recently retaken by the Trifarian Legion. Then we have Glorft. This is just a great fucking name. They were a victim of the assault on Glorf, also led by Cled. I feel like Cled was just choosing places based on name.
We try to get Poppy to name her stuffed animal Glorft.
Yes,
That's
we can.
pretty good.
Okay. Glorft, the cute little pink bunny. Yeah.
Next we have Havardis, who was decimated by Scion on Swain's orders to send a message to potential rebellions. Mm-hmm. And then finally we have Travail as part of the Argent Mountains. Cled also led the Noxian party that sacked this village. This was the village where Riven was born and raised.
Cled.
Cled. Then we have Fallgren, which was one of 2 islands off the coast of the Basilic. They fell to Noxus in the Battle of Fallgren, also spearheaded by Cled. They produce a ton of the tubes that are used in Zon, which we know Zon is fucking nutty about their tubes, so they must be making a killing.
Tubes.
I like they have a place they get their tubes from.
Right.
They got a tube guy.
You got a tube guy? Next up, we got the Great Barrier, which is another huge mountain range. This is the place that was just fucking destroyed by the Rune War. Just not leveled necessarily, because it is still kind of a mountain range, but absolutely decimated. This is where the Basilic is. So this was an area defeated by Captain Cyrus, who I think also shows up in the Katarina comic, if I'm remembering correctly. At least mention of him. Or at least some other Katarina story. We'd know of Captain Cyrus. I forget where exactly, but he's a captain of note. Recently, though, they tried to rebel under the stewardship of Coletta Verne, who is Darius's old flame.
Yeah.
This is also where Darius and Draven grew up. The rebellion there quickly ended after, in the face of a defeat due to an epic double cross, Coletta was stabbed in the back by her own daughter, and likely Darius's daughter. Then we have Krexor, which I just added here because I thought it was neat. They are known for Minotaur Smiths. It's a whole town known for their Minotaur Smiths.
And a cool name.
Scary.
Right? It's a cool
Get
name.
Dwarfed.
Right? Next up, we have the Varju Mountains, which is a small mountain range that has the Rockrund Plains, which is home of Rockrund, who exports Narp, a twisting root vegetable. And it also is the home of Qualfala, the site of the Siege of Qualfala, led by, you fucking guessed it, our man Cled.
He's taken over a lot.
He has done so much for Noxus. He doesn't get enough
really
credit.
Did they not? Yeah,
Cled it?
no one ever mentions him. Cled it out. He's a cleader. Cledder. No, it didn't work.
I loved it.
Dumb, you dumb bitch.
Oh, no.
Anyway, they should have statues to this fucking
Right? They should have
Yordle.
so many Yordle statues. I wonder what they would look like. What do they see when they see Cled?
Just Cled, because we're getting rid of the glamour thing.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Some sort of glam, but it's like, I feel like the what they've landed on right now Well, I don't know, because I guess in Legends of Runeterra, it's definitely non-glamored. Who fucking
Arcane.
knows? Yeah,
And, like, do you imagine the whole time you find out that in Arcane they were picturing like some fucking hot
ripped 6'2"
rib? Yeah, dude. They had no idea it was kind of bigger.
That'd be so good. I kind of liked the idea of that, like, people viewing the Yordles kind of like, if you ever read like Neverwhere, kind of how people view those people from like the Undercity, where it's just like you see them, but you just like your brain kind of forgets about it like right afterwards. But anyway, next up we have Noxian Shurima, which some cities here are Belzoon, which was home to another rebel insurgency against Noxus. They also trade weapons with Clan Medarda in Piltover, specifically to arm up. And then we've got Tereshni, who exports Shuriman Azurite, which is blood glass. And yes, it's named after that Azir. I assume, I don't know if we ever get a description of blood glass, but my assumption is it's from specifically the area where the sun disk exploded and probably created a bunch of glass of the sand there, would be my guess.
Interesting. That would be pretty neat. It would make it very valuable, probably imbued with little hints of power. Blood glass is just a cool name. Yeah,
right.
blood.
It's really...
And then we have Urzaris, which is where Katarina and Cassiopeia spent much of their younger years.
Is that where Cass is now?
I think it's where Cass is, probably. Around there, yeah.
She's slithering around.
Classic Slytherin. Then we have Noxian Ionia. We've got Barl, an island south of the main island of Ionia. This is where Tavasa and Wuju are located, as well as the Apul River, where Zed found Cain. And this was where the first use of Zonite bioweapons by Noxus were used. Noxus controls the lower half of this island. Then we have Phalor, which is a small island to the west of main Ionia, which is the home to the Dreaming Pool, where Syndra was imprisoned. She has basically just stripped this island fucking bare now. There's not a lot here anymore.
She just kind of picked it up.
Yeah, just picked it up and yoink.
Moved it over.
Mine now. I'm taking my island and going home.
What if Syndra picks up the Immortal Bastion? Oh, fuck.
That'd be fucking cool.
Dude,
She seemed to have no beef with Noxus, though, unfortunately.
No, maybe
But
they get
it
her
wouldn't be
too. Maybe they're
beef,
like,
it'd be-
they're like, hey, get this thing out of here. Airlift it. Operation Dumbo Drop.
That'd be cool.
Damn. Okay, anyway.
And then finally we have Navori, which spans the western half of main Ionia, and Noxus controls the southwestern edge of this area.
it's so weird that they've just like dug their heels in and are like, we live here now. Just this one spot, though.
For now.
Can't cross this line.
We will cross that line eventually, but you are not allowed.
Right? Oh, Noxus.
Yeah, do we let's see. So we talked about the Triferix and a bit about the Black Rose and some of the rebels. We didn't necessarily talk about Rel a lot.
Yeah, we hit most of the stuff, these things. We were going to talk a little bit about how the government worked, like the government that we already kind of talked about, the Black Rose, kind of like just big major power players in the space. But there's they're not like an organized band of rebels anyway. It's just sort of there are these powerful individuals, notably Rel, who are opposed to Noxus, neither working within its borders or elsewhere, depending on where Ribbon might be these days. We talk about Rel a little more specifically in that, she was a part of something that we'll get into in a second, one of many Black Rose plots, where they were kind of pumping her up full of magic juice at the expense of other magical children.
Stole their magic
make her
juice.
super powerful. And she broke free. She's kind of out in the Noxian wilds now, ostensibly just working against Noxus to try and rescue other experimentees who were kind of stuck in that position. But very powerful and definitely like a big threat overall to kind of the sort of internal order and harmony within Noxus itself. So there are these individuals not under any single banner who ostensibly could maybe
really fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rel, I mean, her ability to control metal makes her a massive threat to Noxus. Like, she could take literally all of their weapons away without a problem. They don't have guns there, which are also made of metal. So they'll have to get bows and arrows or something. Yeah. Now, did LeBlanc specifically pick her to fight Mordekaiser and then was making her stronger? Or
I think that was the idea,
that's
right?
the read I always had.
She
of
recognized the potential
to be able to control Mordekaiser if you were to return. Because that's something that LeBlanc is important on, and something that the Black Rose is, I guess, preparing for, is Mordekaiser returning.
They know it's going to happen. They're trying to get ready for it.
Yeah, a huge looming threat. That's a lot of what drives a lot of the Black Rose's actions. And in terms of kind of things that are actively happening within the space, like that's the Black Rose broadly is a big perpetrator of a lot of various things. They have their fingers in a million pies. They're constantly real quick before we dig into it. We're at an hour and 10. How y'all feel?
Yeah,
y'all
how are
try and
we
spike
feeling?
It out? I feel like there's not
so.
too
I
much.
think we can wrap by 1:30.
I think
we can
1:30
finish
is a good one to
the
aim
major
for.
plot lines, go over the key texts, and wrap.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. Yeah. So talking about the Black Rose, they're doing a lot of different things, right? And this is where a lot of champions kind of get involved in terms of specific things. They're trying to gather up powerful artifacts for various reasons. You have Cassiopeia, who is born into the Black Rose, who was kind of doing this in the first place when she got all snaked out. Elise, working in the Shadow Isles, is sort of like a free agent, or kind of, for them. They sort of trade favors in service to that. They have academies, places where like Rel was being handled. Annie spent some time at one of these, as per Legends of Runeterra, where they are gathering up magical children and trying to train them up, make them more powerful. They have experiments. Briar is herself just a creation as a result of a Black Rose experiment. They say failed, but she seems pretty effective. I don't know.
Right.
And yeah, Scion's kind of a little bit of a question mark, because it kind of mingles with some older lore about their involvement. But Scion's been revived, and the Black Rose seemingly has some ties maybe to that, and depending on what's believable, maybe even more necromancy outside of that. Obviously, they're trying to depose Swain. We see that a big part of that in the Katarina comic, and then this is where Talon gets involved, because he is firmly at this point planted on the side of the Black Rose, away from Swain. And I guess as a part of broadly trying to destabilize Demacia, seemingly to build out a power base there as well. They're attempting to kind of destabilize Demacia, capture places around, or sort of take control of the leadership of Demacia's allies, and maybe even Demacia itself. Right, like this is stuff that is done more under the Black Roses. It's funny, Swain and the Black Rose both seem to be kind of contesting to destabilize Demacia, because they both kind of want to control what happens there, right?
Right. They're kind of each working their own angle to the same end on this one.
Yeah. We mentioned Mordekaiser's return. It's a really big. That's like probably the biggest looming threat for the whole region. Is that there's this kind of the classic sort of League of Legends. Some sort of horrible threat that's just vaguely happening in the background. Mordekaiser at some point is likely to return, and so a lot of what the Black Rose does, and I guess seemingly Swain also, is sort of seeming trying to prepare for that, but in their own ways. And then the last thing, that this is not so much something happening, it's kind of happening now. It's the gears are starting to turn a little bit, in that when Swain took over, a lot of Noxus's foreign wars were kind of put on hold, or kind of their armies were pulled back so they could kind of reconsolidate. But now that they've kind of reconsolidated the power base, they're gearing back up for more aggression. The big one is Ionia Part 2 is looming on the horizon. We see that in the Awakened cinematic. It's been, I don't know if it's been I assume Riot or confirmed that this is something that will happen in the future.
Right.
That they're going to reinvade Ionia proper. We talked about they've got War Masons working in Piltover, and we'll see what happens with season 2 and in Bessa. It seems like they're going to get way more involved in Piltover politics and have troops there. And the Freljord also, assumedly, is a place that they'll likely return to as well. I don't remember if that is actually the case in like the Darius Color story, or if that's supposed to be something that happened kind of under Darkwill, but I'm certain it's somewhere that they will continue to expand return to. Yeah. So they're kind of poised to start spreading their influence.
Although I'm curious why. It makes sense for Darkwill, because I feel like there's a lot of magic potential there, right? Like everyone's like, oh, there's power held there that you can't comprehend, which seems very, Darkwill's style. But from like a resource perspective, gotta be the most resource dry place of anywhere in fucking Runeterra.
Yeah. I guess the card you can always use is that Swain knows something that everyone else doesn't, because he has a demon. And so there is a potential reason for him to... I mean, he would know about the Void there, probably, yes. Although I don't know why he would want to get closer to... How do they feel about the Void? Noxus? Interesting. I mean, obviously they wouldn't like question. It, but they're one of the only regions not really touched by the Void. Mm-hmm. Which is rare in Runeterra. Anyway. I don't know how they would handle that.
Yeah, I don't really either. I kind of, when it comes to the Freljord, I'll say that I almost kind of wish it was more. I almost kind of wish it was more aggression coming from the Freljord and Noxus having to sort of react to it.
Yes, I like that. That makes way more sense to me. I know Noxus is all about expansion, but like that, you literally hit an ice wall, right? Like expand in other directions. It is fairly nonsensical for them to try to. But the Freljord would for sure be like, who the fuck are you? Get the fuck away from us.
I mean, they do have like a foothold, like right on the border. Like there's a mining colony on the mountain that leads right into the Freljord. So, I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah. I like that a lot better.
And with regards to the Void, I also, it's an interesting question because the Void Noxus is so like, what's immediately in front of you? What's immediately tangible? And the Void is so much bigger and so much more amorphous, like as a threat, and sort of vague in terms of like what it can actually sort of do. You know what I mean? It's more of a theoretical and large scale problem that is like the opposite of what Noxus is equipped to handle and do and deal with. So
they have more to fear from Bandle City than the Void at this point. They've lost more battles to them than the Void.
I think they would be a complete loss. I'll be honest with you. I think Noxus would be utterly devastated by the whole thing. So I think they just wouldn't know how to deal with it in any way. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But yeah. And I think the last thing we wanted. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you want to go over some fun stories to read from this area if you want to get a feel for the region. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We talked about a number of them already. But in terms of like written stories, the Principles of Strength is a very good one. It's a lot of feeling of boots on the ground and like a little, I don't know, little subterfuge in Noxus and exploring some of the ideas we've talked about. Rel Bio and her color story, The Second Grave, also kind of get to see just kind of why Noxus could be kind of like why Noxus is shitty in terms of maybe just even living there. Sisterhood of War is a really really good one for exploring some of the ideas we talked about in terms of what does it mean to capture a place and try and make them Noxian. Proclamation of the Triferics is just sort of explaining sort of what happened after Swain took over, good for understanding sort of the world building. Garen First Shield's a very big one in terms of understanding what's happening in Demacia in regards to Noxian and Black Rose involvement.
Is that the novella?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a novella. The rest are stories you can find on the wiki. But
and I added these bottom 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember Progress Day, but go through these.
I put Trouble, which is an Annie story, which I just kind of like. So
read these stories because John kind of likes
it. It takes place in Noxus. It counts. But you do kind of get to see we talked about, if you're number 2, you got to find the number 1. And you do get to see this just like big bully picking on fucking 7-year-old Annie at a bar who's just trying to enjoy her glass of milk.
Forgot about that story. You read it so long ago.
Then we have the Shuttered Manse, which is an Elise story, which is kind of good for getting an idea of what she's up to in terms of her artifact gathering in the Shadow Isles, and also kind of the kind of niche that she's carved out in Noxus for herself. Then we have Art is Life, which is the Vladimir story, which, again, we get to see a great view of that area of Noxus, where pretty much we only get to see it in this story, because Vladimir lives here, not with a lot of other people. So we get to see what his life is like. We also get to kind of see what life is like for an artist in Noxus, living in a commune of other artists, which, we kind of talked about. What is their place in Noxus? This story's kind of good for that.
That is true. I forgot that they were artists in that one. That's interesting.
Progress Day, which it largely takes place it wholly takes place in Piltover, but it follows a Noxian War Mason, so we get to see inside the mind of some of their kind of top tier spies, which is very interesting to see. The last one I put there is At the Edge of the World, which I don't know if we read for anyone, because there's no champion mentioned in it.
We did read it.
If anything, it would have been for Swain.
It was for Swain, yeah.
But basically, it follows a Noxian who was part of like we mentioned, they were part of a noble family that used to be big shit under Borm Darkwill, but now is kind of nothing. And there's this woman is trying to prove herself in the military, finally does, and is, it's kind of a pain in the ass. We get that impression, kind of full of herself, kind of arrogant, is given command to lead an expedition deep into the jungle, the unexplored area of Noxus, to forge a new area, to forge a new, outpost for Noxus, which does not go great. Her and her entire group are kind of killed by the jungle, and to add insult to injury, at the deepest point that they reach there, she finds a Nox Tara and realizes they were not even the first ones from Noxus to be sent here. This was a mission she got sent on because people were tired of dealing with her shit.
Yeah, I remember we thought we might talk about that with Zyra, but we didn't.
Oh, whoopsies.
Oopsies. Yeah, the jungle
really
is very much a character on this one that's picking off her people one by one.
Yeah. There's a couple comics. We talked about both of these a fair amount, especially Katarina. The Katarina comic was released as a part of the Mage Seeker game release, and it's got a bunch of new developments and revelations in regards to Demacia and the death of their king, and Katarina, the champion, and her involvement in all of it, along with Swain and
her is.
That old bag. And
not on Universe. You're gonna have to Google it.
Oh,
it's on,
yeah.
Webtoons, something.
Oh, yeah, it's on Webtoons. I had to download the app. I remember.
Yeah,
read it. It's great though. It's worth it.
It's very good.
For sure. And then Blood of Noxus is a Darius comic, and I remember this was one of the first pieces we really liked. All of Runeterra, funny enough. About it raises some really interesting questions about a lot of the things we've been talking about for Darius as a character specifically, and we kind of went into some of the problems that he kind of runs into, and him kind of reflecting on his path to where he's at now, also as such like a major player in Noxus.
Right.
Cinematics.
I mentioned the whole area that rebelled, led by Coletta. This comic tells that whole story.
Yes, yeah. It's revisiting his home under troubling circumstances, for sure. Mm-hmm. Cinematics, we talked about Tales of Runeterra after victory. It's the best 3-minute pitch for Noxus that you'll probably find. It's a lot of fun. Awaken showcases some of what we think is likely going to happen with Noxus in the future in Ionia. And then Fear is a little cinematic for Darius. Did you have anything you wanted to say about this one specifically? I did remember it.
Yeah, this one just kind of, he gives kind of a little monologue about basically kind of like the principles of strength. He gives like a monologue about what it takes to be strong and to be a Noxian, and I think this is also a good, Cliff Notes version of what it means to be Noxus.
Sure. Yeah. And then miscellaneous, I just had one thing. The Scion, when Scion was re-released and remade, they put out a little promo site for him. I do think it's a pretty neat thing. It's got big old grain of salt on it, and that a lot of what's mentioned here is not necessarily canon, but what I really liked about it was that it included these little in-universe things, like a proclamation about Scion's, return to the battlefield, and, letters written from a general to another general about how we need to stop using the Scion because he's killing everybody. So the little in-universe media stuff is really cool. So I think it's still worth you can still get a lot of like flavor of Noxus and feeling of as if you were kind of a citizen looking at some of these warnings or postings. But just know that it's not all 100% canon by any means. Yeah. And it's also like only available through like the Internet Archive or whatever. So.
Right, like you've got to go in the Wayback Machine and shit like that. Yeah. Now I have 5 fun facts about Noxus.
Beautiful.
Right.
The Empire's motto is "Forever Strong," and there's also a common mantra said by some of the citizens: "The lifeblood of the Empire is our bureaucracy."
But we're not a cult.
It's a commune, okay?
Yeah.
We take care of each other.
Oh, God, but we really don't.
No.
Noxian architecture was inspired by real-life medieval Paris and London and ancient Rome, mainly like Western European architecture, and Constantinople, which might have inspired the Immortal Bastion. Noxus's crest was inspired by the Triferix doctrine, where the eyes represent vision, the pillars represent might, and the blades represent guile. Thornmail and Vampiric Scepter in-game are Noxian artifacts. And Executioner's Culling is a Noxian weapon created to aid in their conquest of Ionia.
Well, good job.
Interesting.
Ooh, maybe it's conquest number 2. Maybe it'll go better this time.
No.
And then finally, during the Battle of the Green Fangs, an elite group of Noxian war mages known as the Arcane Fist were surprisingly decimated after an expedition into the Green Fang Mountains near Demacia. Turns out it was their magic artillery that originally awoke the Colossus Gallio for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool they got a series named after them.
Right.
They dropped the fist part.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, Noxus is interesting. They're pretty cool. They're not the mustache twirly villains you expect at your first look at Noxus, because it looks very evil. Especially if you put it next to Demacia. Even just flipping through this book, like Noxus, everything's like black and red and dark, and then everything's like all bright and gold for like Demacia. But they're far more interesting than I ever expected. You do root for them sometimes.
Yeah, they're easier to root for in some cases.
And sometimes I kind of root for them over Demacia most of the time, to be honest. But I can't with Ionia. That's where they lose me.
Sure. I mean, I think that's the mark of something that's nice and fun to engage with, is that it's shades of gray.
Shades of gray.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of fun that they have their problems.
I feel like the difference between them is that, like, right now, I kind of root for Noxian leadership. And the people that Noxus attracts can tend to suck sometimes. Whereas in Demacia, I root for the people of Demacia, and the leadership sucks.
Yeah, we just need to take them and mush them together. And that's where Garen and Katarina's love story will come to.
Sure.
Demoxys.
The Demoxys baby, the first Demoxian child.
Oh shit! We're getting pretty close to the what's the fucking the AU? Yeah, the Odyssey AU at this point.
Yeah.
The Moxian Empire.
Yeah, I think that was Noxus.
That's Noxus.
Yay, we did it. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Warheads. John streams on Saturdays about 6:30, 7 p.m. EST. He does TFT and 8 rounds with viewers. So if you wanna hang out with John,
Yeah.
play games with him, you can.
We're a chill hang, you know?
Yeah.
We're in no rage zone. It's good times.
Yeah, literally, if you rage, he'll kick you out.
Get the fuck
Get
out.
the fuck out, unless it's a jokey rage.
Yeah, that's allowed.
Just that, but at the level John just did right now.
No more, no less.
No more, no less. We have a YouTube if you want to find some fun parody songs that John has written, or see our wonderful, beautiful, stunning faces and the red mark under John's eye. Check out our YouTube. And we have a Discord. We'll find some people to play League with, chit chat, make fun of us. Go to the Discord. And we have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
But a very special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, King of Hearts and Mr. Dead. If I were a Noxian general and I took over your home, I would keep you both alive for your talent in being awesome.
Beautiful, honey. We are doing a revisit next week. Do we know who we want to do?
Are we just doing the next one alphabetically?
I didn't know if we were going next alphabetically or if we were going to kind of jump around.
I feel like it's probably worth doing the next alphabetically because since we
it's
covered
Ari.
her, the Ruined King game came out,
Yeah.
which actually
That's
is
true.
pretty Ari heavy.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
what I thought,
Smart. Okay. Please be sure to join us next week, everybody. We are going to be doing a champion revisit. We are going to go back to the nine-tailed fox, Ari.